It can be really hard to know what the right thing to do or say when somebody you care about is struggling. We've all been there. So today I'm going to share some thoughts on things to keep in mind that can help you and the other person move through that experience with a little bit more ease. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Peggy Oliveira. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure to subscribe and click the bell for notifications. So, we've all been there, right? We can definitely remember a time that somebody was sharing something or we knew somebody was struggling and just really didn't know what to do or say. We were afraid that we would do something or say something that could make it worse. And often when that fear is there, it can cause us to really not do much of anything instead. Avoidance, right? Because it feels uncomfortable. So to move through that discomfort, we avoid. So this video is predominantly for people who aren't sure how to support somebody. But if you are somebody who could use support at times and are not necessarily very clear on what you want or need, or maybe aren't very good at asking, this video might be helpful for you too. So there's a couple of different scenarios, right, where somebody may actually share something with you about something they're struggling with. And then there's a scenario where they're not sharing anything with you, but you suspect something might be going on. So I want to address both of those. In the first scenario, where somebody is sharing something with you, the most important thing I think to keep in mind is that listening attentively can really be the most powerful thing that you can do. Truly. Listening. Creating a space in which this person can share without judgment, to be able to share in a way that they know that you are interested and listening. Not only does that help in that moment, but that creates, just by the act of listening, that creates a healing experience that they will take with them, not just in the hours later, but in the weeks, months, and even years to come. If they're not used to having somebody do that for them, that might be something that they think about years later when they're thinking about the people that made a difference in their life. Truly. And I can say that because I've heard it. I have heard people in sessions or sharing things with me who have talked about the person from a year ago or 10 years ago or 20 years ago who listened. If you're somebody who wants to kind of has this need to fix things, which is true for a lot of people, especially when you care about somebody, right? You want them to be able to feel better. You don't want them to be struggling. But if you struggle with that, with the need to fix something, to do something to make it better, this is going to be quite challenging for you. So keeping in mind that truly listening, attentively listening, so not on your phone, not looking away and doing other things, but just listening, just being there, being present and listening. That is actually, not immediately and not solely, but that will actually help resolve the struggle for that person over time. I know it might be hard to trust that, but really, because it is a healing experience. So additionally, I think there is something else maybe that you might consider. And that is that, particularly for the people that are going to be watching this video, it might be that somebody shares something with you that is really personal or really vulnerable, maybe even trauma. And you might have some questions. And so whether it is at the end when they've finished sharing with you, or if they say something like, do you have a minute? Can I share something with you, or can we talk, or something like that? Asking, so there's a couple different things here. You can ask, if I have questions, is it okay to ask? And that would probably be something more that you would do on the end of them sharing. You could just say, is it okay if I ask a question? And they will let you know. And if they say yes, but they're not comfortable, you can't do anything about that. You've done the healthy, appropriate thing in asking if it's okay to ask a question. And sometimes people feel like asking a question is really invasive and inappropriate. Now, of course, you need to be mindful of the kind of question you're asking and certainly how you're asking. But if you're watching this video, I can feel fairly confident that you're likely going to do it in a more healing kind of way versus a rude, disrespectful type of way. So you could say, can I ask a question? Or if it's at the beginning and they say, there's something I've been wanting to share with you, and you can ask, great, thank you for trusting me for you to share this with me. And then you can say, is it okay if I ask a question at the end? Or this is important too, I'm very happy to listen. And again, like you could say that you're honored, because it truly is an honor when somebody is willing to share something with you that is personal, that is really something that's created a lot of struggle for them. It's an honor to be able to be that person in that moment for somebody else. But you can ask them, are you wanting me to just listen? Are you wanting feedback? Do you just want me to be here, and do you want me to hug you? Like, you can ask those kinds of questions. And the truth is that person may not know what they need or want. And that's okay. But by putting it out there, you've kind of opened the door for them to know that you are open to offering what it is that they might want or need. So questions are okay, but of course, if they don't want you to ask questions, or they're not comfortable answering a question, of course, it's important to be respectful of that. Questions actually can show an interest in what they're sharing with you. Again, as long as it's an appropriate question. So I'll give you an example of inappropriate. So one of the things that I see happen all the time, or hear about happening all the time, is somebody will share, that somebody abused them or something like that. And the person will ask a question like, well, did you tell anybody? Or why didn't you tell anybody? Or why didn't you tell me this before? Or why didn't you say no? Or those kinds of questions. Those are not helpful. Those are never helpful. But asking a question like, how did that feel to you? Or how does it feel for you to share that with me? Or even being able to say something along the lines that is more like empathetic. You don't need to do this, but if it feels genuine to you, if it's a natural thing that comes up for you, then you can say something that is kind of showing empathy to that person. But that's not the most important thing. The listening is the most important thing. But you might ask a question like, you might ask who. Like if they just say that somebody abused them, you might ask who. You might say, is it okay if I ask who? It's okay if you don't want to answer. So there's going to be other questions too that you might want to ask. And again, that person can let you know if they're comfortable with you asking questions at all, or even if they're comfortable answering a specific question. And I did a whole video on questions before. So those are some things that I think you can really kind of keep in mind. The other experience or situation where somebody isn't really sharing anything with you, but you suspect that there's something going on, or you can see that they're struggling, but they're not sharing anything with you. They're not acknowledging that there's something going on. In a situation like that, something that you can do that can be helpful. Again, you have no control over what the other person is going to say or do. You don't know how it's going to feel to them, but I think it is a very completely appropriate and healthy thing to do. If you know that somebody might be struggling, you could say to them, hey, is everything okay? Or, I haven't heard from you for a while. Is everything okay? Or, you haven't been quite as present lately, or you haven't been as talkative lately, or something like that. And you could say, is everything okay? Now, for some people, they might feel something that doesn't feel so good because you're kind of pointing out something to them that they could perceive as being a bad thing. But again, you don't have control over that, how that other person is responding or what's happening within them. But you could also say, if you don't want to do that, you could also just say, hey, I'm here. If there's ever anything you want to talk about, I'm here to listen. Just let me know. Just kind of saying that occasionally can go a long way. And it could even be a very intentional conversation that you have, depending on the nature the nature of the relationship you have with this person. That could actually be a conversation you have. You could even say, hey, I saw this video, or I saw this thing on TikTok, or whatever however you want to preface it. But you could say, I read this thing and it talked about how a lot of people are struggling and they don't really know if it's okay to talk about, or they're afraid to bring it up or something like that. So I just want you to know that if there's ever anything you want to talk about, I'm here. Whether you just want me to listen or you want feedback, just let me know. That can actually be a really great way to kind of lay the foundation for some really deep conversations that could happen later. So either one, you cannot be responsible for fixing it. Unless, of course, you created the problem and there is something in that case that you might be able to do. But generally speaking, there really isn't going to be anything that you can do to fix it. So please keep that in mind. And keep in mind that creating the space for somebody to be able to share vulnerably and be supported, not judged, is such a healing experience. And if you are somebody who could use support at times, but you don't talk about it, you don't bring it up, you pretend that everything is okay, or maybe you don't really know what you want or need or what would make you feel better. In that case, I think just kind of noticing what came up for you as you listened, as you watched this video, and give yourself a little bit of time to reflect and think about, if I'm feeling down, if I'm feeling lonely, if I'm feeling worried about being judged, what might make me feel better? And while people will sometimes roll their eyes at this, so much of the time, what actually makes you feel better, even if there's some discomfort in it, what actually can make you feel better is just being in the presence of somebody who can listen. And so one of the things that I talk about all the time is the importance of connection, and how when we're struggling, we tend to want to withdraw and isolate. And that's generally about the worst thing that we could do. So giving yourself an opportunity to really think about, what could support look like for me? Maybe just hanging out with somebody and watching television. Maybe going for a walk with somebody. Maybe sharing something with somebody. But oftentimes it's going to be being able to receive something from somebody else. And often just their presence can go a long way. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments, whatever side you're on of this. Share your thoughts, your responses, anything that came up for you. And if you found this helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up, maybe even share it if you think there's somebody in your life that maybe could benefit from talking about something. And of course, if you haven't yet subscribed, make sure to do so and click the bell for notifications. I will look forward to seeing you soon. Have a beautiful rest of your day.